Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for coming. Let me get my text live streaming. Okay, we're on. We're live streaming. 10 seconds. 10 seconds. Okay. Okay. So hello to everyone in the room. I feel like I should start singing. And also to our viewing audience on YouTube at home. Tonight we're going to have our candidates forum. We want to call it Meet the Candidate. You never know which one we're going to call it. In a minute I'm going to turn the whole process over to the League of Women Voters. This is an activity sponsored by and run by our PTA, and they utilize the fine services of the League of Women Voters to conduct the forum. And you probably have like a whole little introduction, but obviously anybody who's alive understands the League of Women Voters have done this work for decades and are very experienced in moderating candidate forums. Before I turn it over to them, I'd like to thank the PTA executive boards. I got some Chatterton over there, I got some Lakeside and Birch over there, some Chattertons over here. Chatterton there? Yep, that's what I thought. Okay. So thank you all for organizers. I'd like to also thank our board members who are present. This one over here, Gina Piskin, Linda Wilk, and Nicole Venditti, and I believe one of our other board members is going to be joining us, Jolene will be joining us in person, and a couple of them are watching on the big tube at home. And of course the administrative team is here, so thank you. And then my big announcement is I had the whisper in my ear that the PTAs have met and they have jointly determined that they will support the 2022-23 proposed budget. And I want to remind you all, the really big day is on Tuesday the 17th from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. That is the day that you all get to vote for both the school budget, for Proposition 2, which is to withdraw $800,000 from our capital reserve for the purpose of replacing one of the Birch playgrounds and the Lakeside playgrounds. The hope is that that construction would be done in 2024, and that in the following cycle we take money for the second Birch playground and the second Chatterton playground, so that all buildings will have new and revised playgrounds. So that's Proposition 2. You also on the ballot will have, I believe it's Proposition 3 and 4, which is the high school district's budget, and they have a proposition, I think, about capital reserves as well, and the Merrick Library budget and Merrick Library trustee vote is on there too, and of course our trustee vote. So it's going to be a long ballot, and I hope that you can all come out for that. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to the League of Women Voters. Thank you.
I'd like to start off by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I apologize to the flag for not being able to stand myself, because it takes about 15 minutes for me to get back onto all of these rolling things here. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm Pat McCormick from the Port Washington Manhasset League of Women Voters. I'm telling you that because you have to understand. I want you to understand that I have no horse in this race, and I don't know anyone here, so this is all very nonpartisan. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. We operate at national, state, and local levels through more than 800 state and local leagues in all 50 states, as well as in DC, the Virgin Islands, and Hong Kong. We never endorse or oppose political parties or candidates, but we are known for our educational efforts as well as for our advocacy. If anyone is interested in joining after this forum, please join us up here afterwards and we have information. There are really 4 parts to this evening. One is the Pledge of Allegiance, that's the patriotic part, and then there's the boring part, which I'm going to read to you, and after that will be the important part, and then we go home. So this is the boring part, so please hang with me. This is required of all league moderators to read out the procedures for the candidates' meetings. The moderator will be a member of the League of Women Voters from outside the voting district. Candidates for the same office will speak in alphabetical order for both the opening and closing statements. We're not doing that tonight because of the need to Zoom part of it. Each candidate will be allowed 3 minutes for an opening statement. After all the candidates have delivered their opening statements, the moderator will open the meeting to questions from the audience. And those are the questions that you've sent up here on cards. The moderator will be the arbiter of whether questions are appropriate, repetitive, or abusive. Questions from the audience may be addressed to a specific candidate or to the candidates in general. However, all candidates will be given an opportunity to answer all the questions. Each candidate will be given 1.5 minutes to answer the question. There will be no rebuttal. The moderator will rotate the order of responses for each question. A league member will act as timekeeper. Our timekeeper tonight is Jane Thomas. At the 1/2 minute from the end of any given time period, the timekeeper will warn the speaker by prearranged signal. When the time is up, the speaker will be allowed to finish the sentence. Candidates will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. Since the purpose of the meeting is to determine the candidate's views, no substitute speakers will be allowed to appear should the candidate be unable to attend. Since the purpose of the meeting, the use of props, charts, or visuals, and the distribution of campaign literature is prohibited. In accordance with league policy, audio or videotaping by authorized members of the media will be permitted only if agreed to by all of the candidates present. No other taping will be allowed. The league reminds candidates that the procedures they signed stated that this was not to be done. All right, we will begin with our first, the opening statement. I'm going to address you by your first names. I hope that's all right. We will start with Jennifer.
Thank you. Good evening, parents, community members, Dr. Palma, and fellow candidates. I appreciate having the opportunity to be able to answer your questions directly this evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and the PTA for hosting this event. I hope many of you have already read about my professional background and my platform. Very briefly, I'm the general counsel at a publicly traded Fortune 200 company where I've been for 15 years. I sit on the leadership team of that organization and have worked with the financial leadership at the very top of that corporation, along with the CEOs and other leaders for that entire time. And I'm a proud Penn Stater by way of college background. But frankly, where I went to school and what I do day to day is important, but I think this time is best used letting you get to know me a bit more personally. When I was in second grade, I had to take a test on the Dewey Decimal System. I'm not sure everyone in this room knows what that is, but I had to take a test on it. And the test was given by the school librarian, and I was nervous. I mean, seriously nervous, like throw up the night before nervous. The librarian was actually my parents' best friend, though, and the story became one that was told for many years. I often think about me as that little kid and why I reacted that way. Yes, I was an anxious kid, but I think my reaction was about something more than that. It was about how much I loved school and learning and how much I wanted to succeed. Fast forward to now. I'm the proud parent of a Birch kindergartner who walks fearlessly into this building without giving me a hug most days. And he too loves learning, and he tells me the best part of his day every afternoon. He gets the biggest grin when he remembers a sight word and I dance around the kitchen like he just solved world hunger. He finds joy and acceptance and learning in this school building each and every day. He has his bad days too, and not everything comes so easily. But that's why I moved to Merrick, because our schools are second to none and they are supported by this good community. I decided to run for school board because I want to hear about your kids' good days and the bad ones and the best and worst parts of all of them. I want to work to foster common ground during fractured times. I want to be fiscally responsible while thinking always about what that anxious 7-year-old kid like me needs and what all of your kids need, meeting them where they are. And we can do all of that while being mindful of our fiduciary responsibilities and fostering a sense of community. Merrick is just more than just a place we live, it is our future. Thank you.
Excuse me, I think it would be very helpful if we held the applause until the end, because we have a lot of questions to get through tonight, and and we only have a short time, so keep it till the end. That would be very helpful. Gina, you're next.
Thank you. As a long-time 30-year resident of Merrick, I know how fortunate we are to live in such a beautiful community that is supported with excellent schools. My husband Ray and I have happily raised our 3 boys here where they attended Lakeside, Mans, and JFK. I was a parent at Lakeside School for 16 years straight. I knew what I wanted to be an involved parent from day one and to have a working relationship with our school. I believe parent involvement is essential in school environment and is an important part of its success. I was elected to the PTA Executive Board for many years, and I was the president for 2. With each of these experiences, I became more knowledgeable with the operations of school. I went to many board meetings and advocated for our students and the PTA. I know what it is like to be in the audience and to ask questions. In 2007, 15 years ago, I became a trustee and eventually served as president of the Board of Education. This gave me the opportunity to become more involved with the entire Merrick community and to be an advocate and a voice. I feel that I am a trustee who is experienced, visible, fair, and accessible to the community. I have been an instrumental part of our district's well-established success. I believe experience and results matter. We are among the schools in Nassau County with the lowest class sizes. We have comprehensive technology program, a foreign language program that I helped spearhead years ago. We concentrate on the child's social and emotional learning, and we promote belonging. These are just to name a few. I'm proud to say that with any important decision, we have parent involvement. For example, when we are hiring a principal, we have PTA representatives part of the process and to give input. I have also served on the high school board for the past 7 years, where I served as president there as well. The programming there is also something to be very proud of. Our schools rate among the top 8%, with JFK High School rating up in the top 4% nationwide. We have programming for all students with all interests: the culinary, electronic, drama, broadcasting, cosmetology, and our wonderful math high school.
The Belmore Merrick Central High School was a trailblazer when it came to our students' social and emotional health, and we partnered with South Oaks, which was saving precious time when a child was in crisis. We have worked hard to have the elementary and the high schools to be collaborative, which makes the students transition from the elementary school into the middle school better for our kids. During the pandemic, our schools opened on September 25th, 2020, with all in remote or hybrid. This was parents' choice. Many other districts did not do this. I think there was only 2. From that point on, we never had to close our schools. This is something I'm hugely proud of, because this was very hard, and we worked very hard to get this done. My many years working with teachers, principals, administrators, law firms, accounting firms, architects, and most especially parents and students make me happy and uniquely qualified. I thank you for your continued trust and support.
I would ask that the candidates move the microphone closer. I don't know that it's backing over the microphone or.
Thank you. Tara?
Hi, good evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and the PTA for organizing this important community event. My name is Tara Casamano, and I'm very happy to be here this evening to share with the community why I believe I'm the best candidate to serve as trustee for the Merrick School Board. If you want transparency, it's important that you vote for the individual who's qualified as well as has a strong work ethic and a good moral compass for this important job. I'm a pediatric occupational therapist working with children, families, teachers, and other healthcare providers for the past 30 years. I value positive collaboration and believe that family is an important member of the team. I'm a graduate professor and have worked in higher education for over 2 decades. I value education and hold a PhD in health science research. For much of my career, I was a program director in charge of budget, training, evaluating faculty and staff, as well as completing program evaluations. I bring this to your attention so you're aware of my abilities as it translates to the role of trustee. I'm a scholar and a business owner, which I feel makes me uniquely qualified. I can well organize, prioritize, and synthesize information to get the job done. Being a trustee is a position of service. I have a long-standing history of service professionally, but most importantly in this wonderful community. I've served on numerous committees at Burke School, although my favorite will always be serving frozen yogurt on Fridays. I taught religious education for 10 years. I'm a Kiwanis member, served as treasurer for my daughter's soccer team, and I'm a founding member of the Calhoun Touchdown Club. But really, there's no difference between us. I'm just sitting at this side of the table. We're here because of the children and their education. I'm a good friend, a neighbor to all, a wife, a daughter, and a proud mother of my 4 beautiful children, 2 currently attending Calhoun High School. I am running to bring the parent's voice to the table. I will bring new ideas, a fresh perspective, and serve to the best of my ability. I will lead to inspire others and will remain accessible and always respectful. I believe in confronting challenges to help students succeed. I will support district resources to facilitate student achievement. I will promote a strategic partnership with the community and create a shared vision. I believe in providing responsible oversight of the educational experts to set the direction of the school district. And I most certainly value creating and maintaining a healthy school district culture for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica, can you hear me?
Hi, first of all, I just want to apologize that I can't be there in person, although I'm definitely not fragile. I am human, and after almost 2 years, I finally got COVID. So I appreciate modern technology. I appreciate Dr. Palma scrambling at the last minute. I appreciate the candidates all agreeing to allow me to participate this way, because I think it's an important part of the process. I think it's important that we're all informed. I want to thank Jane Thomas for taking my call at 7:40 in the morning. So I appreciate all of you and the Merrick School District for making this happen. Same thing, Lauren Siegel called me today. I appreciate the PTA. It feels almost like an Oscar speech, but I really am acting in the spirit of gratitude. And so I thank you all for allowing me to participate in this and for sharing your time by being here. So as you know, my name is Jessica Mack. I'm a proud parent of Callie Mack, and Callie is in her last year of Chatterton. We spent close to 7 wonderful years here in the school. I also am a proud graduate of public school,
And my husband is a Marokian, so we did move back here to Merrick because of all the wonderful things that he's told us about his education. If you know me, you know that I'm passionate about creating partnerships in education. I'm a former educator, a former clinician, I'm a parent and a taxpayer, and I truly believe that parental involvement, parental engagement, and parental partnership is utmost importance in education. I hold a Bachelor of Science degree in occupational therapy, a Master of Science degree in school counseling. I'm certified as a mental health counselor, and for a short time I worked with postpartum mothers with anxiety and stress. I have a postgraduate certification in educational leadership and policy. I completed an administrative degree and a degree in school building leadership and school district administration, so I think that gives me important insight into both sides of the table, whether as a parent, a taxpayer, or as, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I appreciate it, thank you. So I worked for a public school system for close to 20 years in a high-performing school district, and then I also worked in a school district in which, I hate the term, in an underperforming school district. So I see the inequity and disparity, I'm sorry, you gotta bear with me, in different school districts, and I appreciate all that we have here in the Merrick School District. I understand the inner workings of the school district, and I truly believe that Merrick is one of the best, but there's always room for change, and I believe that not only the parents, but the children continue to deserve the best that the district has to offer. Again, if you know me, if you've been on the other side of my emails, you know that I ask difficult questions, but I'm also open to people asking me those questions as well. And I really believe that community members and parents deserve timely, thorough, and transparent responses to their genuine concerns, and I pledge that if I become a trustee, I'll be sure to do that. I've experienced professionally and personally supporting education. You've heard a little bit of my professional background, but personally, I too enjoy a role of service. Can you hear me? Thank you. I served on the Chatterton Executive Board for 7 years in various roles. Most recently in fundraising, I've served as president, and I was the proud recipient of the 2019 Founders Day Award. I was a Daisy Troop leader, a coach, CYO. I'm a member of Kiwanis, and I've served for the Crohn's Colitis Foundation as well as the Leukemia Lymphoma Foundation, two very important causes to my heart. But mainly, I just want to let you know that I am aware of the critical issues that are facing the district. I have participated in many of the district committee, and that's it. That's a wrap. You'll learn more about me in a few.
I'm glad you can see me. I didn't know. Good.
Thank you, Jane. I can. You all have set up a terrific situation, so thank you.
Okay, now we'll begin with the questions. We will start with Gina. First question is, what experience do you have with creating multi-million-dollar budgets?
Well, experience is the years that I've been on the Board of Education, and even before that. Because before that, I was on the PTA, and I went to all the board, no, not all of them, but many of the board meetings, especially the budget meetings. And when you're on the school board and you're a trustee, you go through the budget line for line. And not only was I part of that whole process where you go through each line by line item of what we're spending money on and how, I've also been part of the district's audit committee, which is 6+ years, I think I've been on that, where I meet with the internal and external auditors, and we discuss and go over all the financials of the district. And then I report back to the Board of Education what was founded. So, especially when it comes to school board budgets, I'm very, very aware of what's going on.
Tara.
You move them mics much closer to one another. Lean into it.
Good.
Thank you.
Yes?
Sorry.
Okay. Just to answer the question regarding budget, I do own a very large ranch. It's been in my family for over 100 years, and I'm the CEO and the owner of that. And though it's quite different, children are not cattle. It is something that I've been aware, and I've been the owner for 13 years, and it's a successful cattle ranch. But primarily, I think the most relevant would be in regards to my role as a program director of the occupational therapy program, where I did have to manage the faculty salaries and benefits, as well as understanding tuition, which is probably similar to taxpayers' money, 'cause that's your input, your revenue, and so forth, and resources and curriculum, and so on and so forth. So I do think I have experience professionally understanding budget, respecting it, knowing the timeliness of it, in regards to my role as a program director.
Jessica,
Can you please repeat the question?
certainly. What experience do you have with creating multi-million-dollar budgets?
Well, I like to say that my household is a multi-million budget, but it's not. But I do have experience. I'm an entrepreneur, and in my business, managing money. And then also, although the school budget is not personally mine, I followed closely the school budget for years as a taxpayer. I think it's important to be aware and to be fiscally responsible. So although I didn't manage it personally, I did manage it in terms of asking questions along the way, being sure that I checked in with the trustees, the superintendent, in terms of that. But for my business, I've managed the budget, and for my household as well, and also nonprofits, and again, as a member of an administrative team in the public school system prior to this.
All right, Jennifer?
Hi, the company that I work at is ranked, I believe, 196 on the Fortune 200 list. For the first 10 years of my career there, I worked at a corporate division that accounted for approximately half of their roughly $13 billion in revenue each year. I reported directly to the chief financial officer and the CEO of that division, and I worked closely on all strategy decisions and any decisions that potentially had an impact or a risk on the organization overall. I also worked with, at the time, there were approximately 200 separate agencies that were part of that division, and there were only 3 lawyers that serviced that group. And each of those companies ranged in revenues from, it could be $10 million to $400 million for one agency. And again, I worked with all of those CFOs. In my current role, I am the general counsel on the leadership team with the chief financial officer of a group of agencies that's the largest healthcare communications and advertising group in the world, with revenues of $1.1 billion, and I work daily with the chief financial officer on budget and related issues.
Our next question will begin with Tara. Has been a lot of talk about change. What change is it that you want?
Great question, whoever asked it. My first call to action will be to work with the other trustees to set goals. Right now, I didn't find any goals that support the mission statement for the district, right? And the mission statement is that we're going to prepare our students for the rigor of secondary education, right? We're going to give them, they're going to be good citizens, they're going to be leaders, they're going to be confident learners. But how do you measure that if you don't have goals, okay? So as an occupational therapist, as a program director, you have to have goals to determine the accountability. So the first thing that I would do would be to work with the other trustees to set those goals. They need to be related to, obviously, the school district mission. They need to be determined, because goals will then determine, does the plan, does the policy, does the curriculum actually that you're evaluating meet those goals? The district needs to make them measurable. They need to make them objective, realistic, and achievable. There isn't a way to determine success if you don't have goals. So the first thing I would do would be to make those goals, because the facts only matter if they're real, and the data needs to be collected. So this would be my starting point, and I would hopefully be bringing a very positive, professional myself to the board so that we can be accountable to measure our students' success. Thank you.
Jessica?
And so I just want to first start by saying that the idea of change does not imply that things are currently not working well. Again, I think that Merrick has definitely prepared our daughter Callie, for the rigors of secondary education, and I want to commend the current board members and the administration for that. So when I say change, I don't want to take away any of the hard work that they've done, because I love Merrick and I love this school. To start, I would love to, again, as an occupational therapist and someone just on the ground talking to parents in the elementary level, one thing I would love to see is better programs for struggling readers. I would love if we could have more people certified in the Gillingham program, not just trained in it. I would love if there was a formalized cursive program. I introduced the Handwriting Without Tears program to Syosset School District about 20 years ago, and I think it's something that the district should consider. I do think we need some more pre-referral interventions for kids to head off some of the services. I do believe in term limits. I think term limits keep things, allow for space for other ideas and other voices. I think any elected official should have term limits, and I think it ensures that trustees are serving for the best interest of their constituents. And finally, modern day technology. I would love to see things a little bit more user-friendly on the website. I'd like to see contracts listed for the sake of transparency, and I would love to see a streamlined approach to communication so the board does not get overwhelmed with their emails, but that parents still feel heard and responded to. So I would love it if there was a more streamlined way to promote communication between the community and the board.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Thank you. I wouldn't talk in terms of change to the school district. I moved here because it's a phenomenal school district. I looked around, I did a lot of research before I came here, and the schools are why I came. I'd rather focus on enhancing what we already have. I think everyone up here, I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but I think Jessica just said it, I think everyone up here has attributed their children's success to the programs and the education that they've received in this district. And as a kindergarten parent, I hope that that continues. I think that we should look at, as far as what the standards are and the goals, that there are more kids in National Honor Society than ever before. Our high schools are ranked nationally. Our middle schools are ranked. The tech program was on full display at the board meeting for the elementary district the other night at the board meeting, and it was beyond impressive. I also think that we have to keep in mind that the quality and the excellence that's at the high school district starts here, starts at Chatterton, starts at Lakeside. So I do believe that we would build on and enhance what we have here as opposed to a change. I also just want to call out that I think we all need to be clear about what the board can do and what the building does. And so that there may be things or additional services that would benefit the children, and I think those would be wonderful, and every child's needs should be considered, and they should all be included in those decisions, but that is a matter for the schools to handle with their personnel.
Thank you. Gina?
So, as far as change goes, I'm not against change. I think change is always something that could be good if you're using it in a positive way. But with that said, I don't think we need to change anything because it's bad, but maybe we can improve on what we are already doing. So we're coming out of a 2-year pandemic, and things haven't been quite normal as far as the kids' school daily life is. So what I would like to see as far as change goes is the change from how things have been in the past 2 years, as far as, having the classroom not look quite the way it used to look, and going back to that. And when we go back to that, I think it's really important to check in on the children to see how they're doing emotionally from the pandemic. I'm sure there was an effect on them. I want to check in on how they're doing academically and see how they're doing with that after a year or two being on remote or in or masked or not masked, 3 feet away from people. So those are the things that I think. It's not so much that I think we need change, but improvement on what we're doing and be aware of what we need to do in the future.
Thank you. The next question is, Merrick has a small but growing demographic of students of color. What actions have you taken to prepare yourself to advocate for these children? How will you ensure they are seen and respected? And that will be Jessica.
Let's take a longer. That's an excellent question. Can you repeat the beginning of it again? I just want to make sure I respect it and honor it.
Merrick has a small but growing demographic of students of color. What actions have you taken to prepare yourself to advocate for these children? How will you ensure they are seen and respected?
Well, at first brush, I have a close friend who's a black woman who's a principal, and truthfully, I didn't know how to address this because it's not something that I had to encounter. So we have had some hard and important discussions because I said to her, how do I discuss this in a meaningful way? How do I discuss it in a respectful way? So it first started with speaking with her and her children, who are close friends of Callie's. In addition, I have to say I'm always willing to learn and be open to it, not only for children of color, but children of all abilities. So I think my professional background has lent itself to that. I've also, again, done some work that I don't always, I do charitable work and volunteer work that I don't always brag about, but I do work at home where I volunteer my time, and I'm learning more information about how to do that, but I'm always open for discussion. I think that's the biggest thing, is just saying, you know what, I don't always know the answers, I don't know what it feels like, but educating myself. My sister's a librarian, so she always offers me the current literature and books and important things for me to read on a developmental level. So I hope that answers the question, but again, I'm always open to learning more, and if I'm doing something incorrectly, I would love for someone to tell me. But I think the most important part is questions, talking to people, and just educating myself a little bit better through reaching out to people and reading.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Yeah, so I work closely at my company with the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer. We talk essentially every day, and I work on all DE&I initiatives there. During the pandemic, I took an anti-racism course with the Anti-Racism Project and pursued graduate level courses with them of that program. But what I'm most proud of is during a very tumultuous time, during the pandemic, when there was an incident in Merrick that had many people saying negative things that I did not believe to be true about the community, I founded a nonprofit called Racism Has No Home Here in an effort to unify the community and show that we were not what people were saying, and to make sure that children of color felt included. I'm happy to say that what started in Merrick got national attention. We've been featured on Good Morning America. We're an official 501c3 corporation. The signs are national, and everyone knows that it started here in Merrick. So I have a strong background that continues as we continue to work on that nonprofit.
Thank you. Gina?
Can you just repeat the question so I make sure I get all?
Merrick has a small but growing demographic of students of color. What actions have you taken to prepare yourself to advocate for these children? How will you ensure they are seen and respected?
Okay, thank you. So in approximately 2010, the district a committee was formed, and we developed the DE&I, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and a committee was formed, a mission statement was written, and we've been working slowly with that in the district way before it became a New York State standard, where it was said from New York State that you should need to include diversity, equity, and inclusion in the classroom. Merrick was already doing for more than 10 years. So we have been doing this, and the way we do it is just including different people, different cultures in our classroom meetings at a grade level of representation. So that's how I believe that we have done it in Merrick. We were first probably to do it, and we didn't need New York State to tell us to do it. We knew that diversity is very important, equity is important, and of course inclusion is important. Everybody should feel welcomed in a classroom, and that's very important for the Merrick schools.
Thank you. Tara?
Yes. Hi. Okay, so as trustee, I will serve to make sure every child is treated equally. As a therapist, I treat all people equally, uniquely, individualistically. Everyone is different. It would be a very boring world if we were all the same, right? It's not just about race. It's about different views. It's about your religion. It's about what makes you human. And I'm human too, right? I don't have all the answers, but I do know that I'm open to learning, as well as a caring human being. Diversity has always been taught in the schools, and I support that. I also support diversity of thought. I think there should be more resources in the library that reach out to other communities so that we have authors from different perspectives, right? We need to look at it and we need to evaluate it and to make sure that it's done in an equal, inclusive manner. Equality also considers equality of all different people, right, and different cognitive abilities, from the differently able that I work with, the special education, as well as the gifted. They should all be included, and I do that on a regular basis as an occupational therapist. Every child should be treated equally and included and feel safe so that they can learn and have fun in their school. Our children are the seeds of the community that every parent hopes will flourish. That's, as a trustee, I want to support that so that they flourish and they can learn in their school and go on to be good citizens in the world.
Thank you. The next question is, having a child in elementary school at the time of serving is important. How do you feel this will impact your role as a trustee? We'll start with Jennifer.
So you're gonna get tired of hearing me say this, but I am the only candidate that will have a child in the elementary school district at the time that the new trustees are sworn in. I decided to run for the board because I want to be involved from the beginning of this journey. And I think I can share a perspective of elementary school parents because I'm going to be living it while I would hopefully be serving as a trustee.
Gina?
So this is a question that's been asked to me quite a few times, but I think that with all the involvement that I did have and with the 16 years that I was at one school and the few years that I had a child at Lakeside, Mams, and JFK, I have the experience and the knowledge of knowing what parents want and what they need from their children. I do not think that a trustee needs to have a child in the school at all. I think it's great if you do, that's wonderful, but I think as a trustee, when I make a decision, I am making a decision for how many kids do we have in this district? 2,000, 15, whatever it is. Whenever I make a decision, it's for every single one of those children. I'm very empathetic. The last board meeting that we had a STEAM presentation. It made my day to be sitting on the floor playing with those kids with all of their projects that they made with their STEAM and their robotics. So to me, it's great if you have a child in the school district, but I treat all of the children in our school district, and every decision I make, it's for the children.
Tara?
Thank you.
I agree. I think that parents need to be involved, and I think a parent perspective is needed. I have two children currently at Calhoun High School, one that's a graduate of BU and one son that goes to school down in North Carolina. I have a great opportunity to represent parents, and that's what I'm looking at this opportunity as. I thought about running, honestly, back when my children were in school, but I was scared that my children were going to be bullied. And some of the bullying that I've seen to me has caused me to protect my family. So I'm running now where I feel my children can handle some of the adversity that's thrown at our family, and they can be treated, and they can hold their own and be resilient and so forth. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't run while my children were younger, because I didn't want to put them in the position of feeling that way and feeling threatened, because again, we're here for the kids and they should feel safe and they should not be fearful about how their teachers are acting and saying and so forth. So, not to get off a little bit, I do agree that a parent perspective is needed, and I think I'm open to all the parents, from the kindergartners to walking across the stage and graduating whatever high school that they're at. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica?
Well, I think if that were the case, it would discount the work of the entire board for the last almost 2 decades, because currently there's only one board member who has a child in the elementary school. So I think the question is a little difficult because, again, it'll discount all the important work of the people who are currently served and who have served for the last 20 years. So while I think it's important, I don't think it's necessary. I think I am at the perfect time because I've spent the last 7 years forming relationships with teachers, parents, staff, board members. I know sometimes I could be a thorn in your side, but I'm always have the kids' best interest at heart. So I think the board should be made up of diverse representation. It should be singletons, single, I don't know if anyone likes that term, but singletons, older members, people with young children, maybe people even without, because all the community is an important part. But again, that question I'm not sure how I feel about because there's only currently one board member with a child in the elementary school district. And again, I think I'm at an important part because I've made connections throughout the years. I've served in various ways. I've attended many board meetings. So I think it would be unfair to just characterize that it would have to be someone who currently has a child in the elementary district.
Thank you. Our next question is, why did you choose your running mate? And we will start with Gina.
So, I didn't know Jennifer. I did not know Jennifer 3 months ago. I had no idea who she was. She came up to me after a board meeting very nicely and introduced herself to me, and we met over coffee quite a few times. And you know, running for the Board of Education, I'm sure you will both agree, is very stressful, and you don't want to do it alone. You want somebody who you can call in the morning and support you and chit chat with and be able to have that support, but you want somebody who aligns with your thinking. So when we sat there, we had coffee and we would go, you know, I'm a 15-year veteran, she has a child in kindergarten. So what was most important to me is that our thinking aligned. I knew that she moved to Merrick because of the schools. I knew that she loved the schools. I knew that she supported all of the hard work that the Board of Education administrators and teachers were doing. And so that was somebody that I could align myself and feel good about. I also knew that she wasn't in it for any other reason but education. I don't know her political background. She doesn't know mine. We probably have different political backgrounds, but that did not matter. It was only about the children. And to me, that was very important. And it was about the education and the love of Merrick.
Thank you. Tara?
Yeah, I agree, Gina. It's a very stressful time for each candidate and their family. And again, Jess, that one, we didn't know each other either, and we kind of our circles just came together through mutual friends and through both of us talking over the past couple of months of our interests, our goals, and then we decided let's support each other. Let's come together. Let's unify. We found out. We had no idea we were both occupational therapists. You're an occupational therapist, I'm an occupational therapist. So, you know, and that's one way, you know, you get out there and you talk to your community and you find out you have so many commonalities, right? And we said, let's do this together. Let's use each other's back to lean upon. Let's use each other's wisdom and different ways of looking at problems, because a trustee looks at all the sides of a problem, right, to figure it out, gathers its information from all people, right? So we decided, let's look at your perspective, my perspective, let's come together. And I'm really super proud of you, Jess, and I'm glad that I'm on your team.
Jessica?
I almost feel like this is the dating game. We're all up here with our sons, but in all seriousness, as Tara mentioned, we have our circles sort of came together like a Venn diagram where we overlapped, and like she mentioned, I appreciated the fact that we are both occupational therapists. Without giving too much of our backstory for both of us, we both kind of scrapped our way through life and worked really hard to put ourselves through college and graduate school, and I always love a good success story, and hearing that again that Tara and I really came from some circumstances where we were like the first people to go to college. We really worked very hard to put ourselves through college. Not only that, we both valued education, we both valued vocational skills, vocational colleges, and another reason why I wanted to is Tara, I hope you don't mind me saying this, I look to her like a big sister. She's on one end of the spectrum with 4 older kids, I'm on another end with a younger child, and I'm in awe of the way Tara balances not only her career, but her family of 4 and Phil, so maybe family of 5. But really, in truth, when I got to know Tara and meet her, she is an inspiration to me because She's a true success story. She values everybody. We have similar views, but we also have very different views, and we learn to communicate in a really nice way, and I consider her to be family now, and I'm proud to be her running mate, and I'm proud of the way she carries herself.
Jennifer.
So Gina has accurately told the story that we met for coffee and we discussed our beliefs. I think for those of you who know me and those of you who are getting to know me, know that what you see is what you get. I don't hide what I stand for, who I'm aligned with, who I am part of, and I don't change what I believe, even if it's uncomfortable or there are people who might have opposing viewpoints. I actually think that's a benefit to welcome those in as opposed to blocking them out and keeping out people who don't share my beliefs. So for Gina and I, it was based on the fact for me that I respected her many years of service to the board. My mother served on her school board for 9 years, and I know that it is a tireless, stressful second job for anybody that takes it on. And I admired the fact that she was always open to differing viewpoints and that she had integrity and stood for the things that she believed in, but was open to other views and other perspectives on issues.
Thank you.
Are we allowed to respond to responses, or we wait till the next question?
We can't do rebuttal. That's one of the primary rules.
Okay, thank you.
The next question is for Tara, begins with Tara. Parental choice is a key issue this election. How can you promise to honor a parent's choice when there are overarching state and school policies that must be abided by? What will you do when one parent's choice conflicts with another?
Well, that's a great point. And like I alluded to before, you need to look at all the sides. You need to talk to all the people. And that, as a trustee, I will do that. I will be open and responsive and respectful. Will I always, will that person's choice or, you know, what they're asking for be the end result? No, that's life, right? That's life. But I will always be responsive and respectful. I will always take the time to answer people, answer their emails, answer their phone calls, take the time to sit down and talk to people, which I've met so many fantastic people on this campaign. So I think though, people will be okay if their choice isn't picked, as long as they know their voices were heard. Not knowing your voice is heard is, well, do they not care? Do they not know what I'm talking about? Who knows? So knowing that your voice is heard and respected, even though it may not be the end result, I think is okay. And I think that's part of adulting, right? We have to all just figure out that it's not going to always be your way, but that you're going to be heard. I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to answer you. I'm going to respond to you. And I'm going to look at all the sides. And again, follow the state mandates, follow the school district visions and goals so that it's the best decision for the children.
Thank you. Jessica.
Can you please repeat that question? My apologies.
Parental choice is a key issue this election. How can you promise to honor a parent's choice when there are overarching state and school policies that must be abided by? What will you do when one parent's choice conflicts with another?
Excellent question. Well, the first thing is we have to realize that we are guided by New York State Ed, and they really set some standards, and then the district, if it's in terms of curriculum, I just want to be clear, I come from a family of educators. The last thing I want to do as a trustee is micromanage teachers. I have full faith in them, but we would be overseeing the superintendent. But there is a policy, if anybody wants to go and look on the district website, there's policies that are outlined there, and one of the most important ones here that's listed is the parental involvement policy, and it's consistent with Title I, Part A of the No Child Left Behind Act. So I think if we act in terms of policy, if we go in terms of standards, if we share that information, I think bottom line, one thing I've always learned as a therapist and a leader, and even in my role as PTA president, if people feel heard, that's the first step. So I would want to hear the concerns from both sides. I would like to share policy with them and the standards, and then go from there. But I think a lot of things happen from miscommunication. Things get lost when things are in electronic mode. So my first step would be to make sure that both parties feel heard. Second step would be that they understand the policy and the standards in place. And then third would be to try to come to some sort of resolution.
Thank you. Jennifer?
So I do agree with many things that have been said, and I try to think of it in terms of parental voices. And I would encourage every parent to use that voice, and I would try to foster communication both between board members and the community and between teachers and the community. I think that's very important. My job for the past 23 years has to help people on completely opposite sides of an issue reach consensus. I agree that just because your opinion wasn't the one that carried the day, that does not mean you haven't been heard. It is important for people to feel heard and recognized. I do think that happens, and I'm open to ways of improving that. That being said, there is a clear line between what the board can do and what the people who run the schools, who are the teachers, who are the experts, and the principals, administrators can do. So I would want to foster communication and have an open dialogue with the understanding that maybe what's the best thing that we can do is have parental voices and use them as a way to bridge that, to help people come together more, even when we may start out with differing viewpoints on an issue.
Gina?
So one of the big things that Jennifer and I really agreed on is that parental choice is the parental voice, right? So you have, as a parent, choices every day. You have the choice to talk to your teacher if there's something wrong in your child's classroom that you're not happy about. You have the choice to call the principal, talk to one of the trustees. You have many choices, but you have choices within rules. So schools have rules, you know. You can't, and there's state standards, and there's all these things that sometimes block the parent's choice to pick what they want exactly for their child. As a trustee, what I find to be the most important thing is to listen to all the parents when they call me, and they do call me, and they do stop me at the wall bell. Well, it's not wall bells anymore, but I'm really aging myself now. But wherever I'm, Uncle Giuseppe's, they stop me and they tell me their concerns. So my job as a trustee is to direct that parent to do what they want. I mean, to where they should go to help alleviate their concerns. The most important thing that we have done as a district, though, and it's something that cannot be overlooked, is that we gave parents the choice. We gave them the choice after the pandemic, coming back to school with full-in, remote, or hybrid. Tell me what other school can do that. And it was not easy. It was very hard on our teachers to do that, to be in a classroom and to have to navigate all of that. So whenever we can, we always try to give the parents a choice and a voice.
The next question is, the COVID variants are constantly evolving and look to be here to stay for the foreseeable future. How do you feel about mask mandates and vaccine mandates for the children? Next is Jessica.
If we're going to talk in terms of what our roles are as a trustee, this is outside of the role of trustee. So what I would advise is, I just heard today Dr. David Agus speaking about it's something we're going to have to live with. I personally, although I felt strongly about when the science showed, and I know people have been circulating things about quotes of the science showing, but again, I am a scientist. I follow the science, as they say. I have to tell everybody I wear a mask. So again, I don't take my personal opinions because I'm immunocompromised. So I've been wearing a mask since, unfortunately, 2016. But I don't think as a trustee that it is within my role to say vaccine mandates. Again, I'm not a scientist. Dr. Agus did say today that this is something we're going to have to learn to live with. I think if that's something that you and your family decide to do, I think it's an important thing. Just like I would not want people to tell me whether or not I should take certain drugs that have saved my life. I would not do the same for others. So in terms of the role of the trustee, if that's what the mandate is, that's what we will follow. But if parents are concerned and they're upset and their kids are having difficulty communicating or they're struggling with breathing and they just want to be heard, as a trustee, I would hear their concerns. But again, as a school board trustee, I'm not the medical director, and that's not, I don't think, an appropriate thing for me to be deciding whether mandates are appropriate. Vaccine mandates.
Jennifer?
So vaccine mandates are absolutely not in the discretion or the duties or the responsibilities of the school board. Anyone who would be concerned about a vaccine mandate should feel free to reach out to their state legislator to address those issues. As far as a mask mandate, we would take an oath of office and we would have to uphold the law. So if there was a law that was put back in place by the New York State Health Department, which was then enforced by the governor, as a trustee, I would have to uphold that law. I also want it to be clear that there are real consequences if, as a school district, we decided not to follow a mandate. The school board can be disbanded, the superintendent can be removed, and the school can lose state aid, where I believe state aid accounts for approximately 14% of our budget. That would be a significant cut. But most importantly is that if your board and your superintendent is removed, there's a receiver appointed, and some of you may be familiar with that happening in other districts like Roosevelt. So it would be our responsibility as a trustee to follow the state mandates, follow state laws, but of course listen to parents that would have individualized concerns.
Gina?
So as a trustee, the number one rule that we go by is we listen and we follow the New York State mandates and rules and laws, and that whatever, we go by the governor. That's who we work for, basically. And we took an oath of office, we raised our right hand, and we swore to this. So we always go by what is mandated by New York State. With that said, as soon as that mandate went away, it was parents' choice. They could send a kid to school with a mask or not. I think that really have very little control over what we do. We just have to follow the rules. But I do believe that people can advocate for themselves. If we received a lot of emails from people saying take the mask off, and then for every 20 we received about taking the mask off, it was keep the mask on. So that's why rules are put in place. You just follow the rules, and this is what we have to do. And then you have a well-run system, and everything is fair. You just follow the rules. And I just feel that sometimes people come to school boards thinking, and with their frustrations, when maybe they should be going to their legislator who can help them in that area. I mean, we had no choice but to keep the masks on when they were on. Believe me, nobody was happier than we were when we were able to give parents choice.
Thank you. Tara?
Hi. So I would just echo what everyone up here has said, that as a trustee, I would follow the mandates and the guidelines of the state. But I do think that there's also something else I'd like to add to the conversation, that when young children are coming in, some with masks, some without masks, some teachers maybe are choosing to wear them, some are choosing not to, that there needs to be that conversation, especially for these young kids, of why are they wearing it, why am I not? Why are they different than me? Why is this teacher not looking at me, but looking like different than this teacher is looking because they have a mask on? So I think that's something that needs to be a conversation, especially with the young kids, as to why some people are choosing it and some people are not, and be accepting of people's choice. Because it's maybe their parents telling them to do it, or wearing it, or what have you, maybe other situations, but I think that's something that can be addressed within the school to help children understand why some people are choosing to wear it if we do go back to whatever the situation is. But hopefully not, right? Hopefully we're going to be healthy and the world's going to get back on track, right? But I do believe that as a trustee that I will follow the rules and the mandates, as everyone else has said. But if there are some changes, then I think that we need to have those conversations as a community.
The next question is, LGBTQ students face higher rates of homelessness, self-harm, and suicide. What steps will you take to ensure that this population feels safe, valued, and included in our schools. And the next is Jennifer.
So I would be an active and enthusiastic supporter of every child feeling safe and included. Our district recently sent out an email about the impact program that is based on a dignity and respect for every student, and I would be a huge proponent and supporter of that. I also want to call out that today it was brought to my attention that there was a post directed at LGBTQ+ members of our community by someone in a neighboring district. I think it behooves all of us, as I sit here, in looking at this audience and knowing members of our community that are LGBTQ+ or their children are, to publicly denounce anything that would reference LGBTQ+ people as part of a rainbow people or anything of the sort. That has no place in Merrick, and I think Merrick is better than that. And I would hope that all of us would share the value that all of these children deserve dignity and respect and should feel safe and included in our community.
Thank you. Gina?
So, the question again, just so I want to make sure I get it right.
LGBTQ students face higher rates of homelessness, self-harm, and suicide. What steps will you take to ensure that this population feels safe, valued, and included in our schools?
So that is something that we work very hard with in both the elementary and the high school schools to make everyone feel included and valued and respected and welcomed. And that's why we're doing all of what we're doing with the DE&I, is that we want every child to feel, no matter what it is, whether they're transgender or gay or whatever it might be, or that they come from a family, their first generation, and whatever it may be. That is why that program and the way that we want to include the diversity, equity, inclusion is so important. And that's why it's important to start it at the age-appropriate level in whatever we read. So if you have a book in kindergarten and there happens to be a gay couple on it, more power to you. It's not teaching that child to be gay, just there's some parents that happen to be, two mommies or two daddies, and how wonderful is that for the child in that kindergarten class to see that might have parents that way. So I think it's something that you have to start very young, and the more a child feels accepted, the better they feel about themselves.
Tara?
Yes, so I think all children, again, like I mentioned before, they have their unique and families, and every family is different, and that's what's so wonderful, right? So I think that you come to school and you come to school to learn, and you should feel safe and you should feel supported, and you should be with a teacher that cares about you and that is obviously able to teach you whatever the curriculum is, but within a loving environment. And I think that that's super important. This school district has some wonderful support staffs with the clinical social workers, a school psychologist. There's also district supports and so forth. So I would hope that the district supports would help the teachers so that if any child is feeling depressed or isolated or lonely or confused, whether they are, whatever it is that they're confused or lonely about, that they would be able to utilize the district resources to help them, right? So that each child knows that they're valued. And every family should be valued, whatever the makeup is. I value that diversity. It's part of my family, and I value it.
Jessica?
This is another excellent and timely conversation because just today I read an article about 1 in 8 elementary school students do not conform to traditional gender roles. So I think it's an important conversation to have. I too have family members that are part of that community, and we've always taught Callie, and we do the same thing for the elementary students, that there's a foundation of respect for all people. I think one way to do that too would be in the beginning set expectations so administrators and teachers could set their expectations for it. And then also I think it's important to discern between pushback and questions and concerns. Sometimes developmentally, I know this as a pediatric therapist, that at the elementary age is when people start to gain knowledge about who they are and who others are and how people identify. So I think it's important to make that distinction between if it's pushback or if it's genuine concerns. And I think like Tara said, it's important to identify resources for students in the building. I know the district recently hired a school counselor, and as someone who's a certified school counselor, I applaud the district. Not all districts have them at elementary level, so, and I think even identifying safe spaces in Syosset High School and the middle school and the elementary schools, we had identified safe spaces for those students. But I think it begins with the conversation. I think it begins also with understanding what's developmentally appropriate for kids, because again, in elementary school, this is when they start to develop those skills and an understanding of themselves and others. So I think it starts not only with the adults, but also in the building and the children. And again, identifying those resources and ensuring that we're using them. But I want to applaud the district on a different topic for the kids that are moving over to the middle school. The school counselor has already met with all of the sixth graders to discuss their concerns. And I think just if we connect with students on that level, they'll know that they have someone there for them.
The next question is, what do you believe is the role of the school board when it comes to controversial issues with the curriculum? And we will start with Gina.
So as a school board trustee, any controversial issue, there definitely needs to be a discussion about that. So I always welcome discussions. We always welcome discussions, all of us. But as far as curriculum goes, that is state mandated. And we really, if it's a curriculum that has been handed down by New York State, we really can't change that. We can, I don't know what we can do about that, because the curriculums are set by the state standard. So the best you can do as a trustee is just to hear the concerns, to listen, to answer your phone call, answer emails, and have a discussion with it. But that's about it. New York State sets the standard for the curriculum. We do not.
Tara.
Leave this here. Again, the state provides a mandate, and the educational experts, the administrators, help select the curriculum that guides to meet those mandates. But it just can't stop there. This goes back to what I talked about before as the first charge that I would do. The first thing that I would try to work with the other trustees about is to set goals. So when there's a controversial issue or changes in curriculum or new curriculum and what have you, we need to have goals set for the school district so that we can measure to see if this curriculum is working. And maybe there's another curriculum that would work better. So I think it all goes back to, again, collecting that information. How is the school district gathering data for meeting the goals? Is the curriculum actually working? I agree that there's certain mandates and guidelines we're not going to have any choice for, but how we implement them within our own school district, in our own buildings, with the teachers who have that academic freedom. It's one of the policies. I think it's 4050. I read a lot of policies. They have the academic freedom. Is it developmentally appropriate? Are the parents involved with the curriculum? Are they aware of it? I think that all is a ever-changing, dynamic entity, right? And maybe sometimes, the goal's not going to change, but the plan changes. And that's something that's, again, ever-changing and ongoing and needs to have the parents' voice heard so that the community can be part of that.
Jessica.
So in terms of curriculum, I think it's important to note that the New York State Education Department, and I quote from their site, they are responsible for setting student learning standards, but actually the local school districts are responsible for developing curriculum based on those standards. So it would be fair if a parent said, I have some concerns about curriculum, for them to approach the school district and not just leave it up to the New York State of Education Department. As a trustee, our role really is threefold. It's the custodian of the taxes, it's to set policy, and it's oversight of the superintendent. So it would be my hope that we would have faith in the superintendent that is hired to supervise the teachers. And again, I've come from a family of educators, and the last thing I want to do is micromanage them. But on the flip side, there is also, as Tara stated, there's policies on the website. But one very important one that I mentioned before is the parental involvement policy. And that states that parental involvement refers to the participation of parents in regular, two-way, and meaningful communication. So I think whether or not we agree with people, we have to be open to that meaningful communication when it relates to student academic learning, and I would encourage that as a trustee.
Jennifer.
So when I hear that question, the first thing I think about is what is controversial? Because what may be controversial to me may not be controversial to you or to the child sitting next to your child in school, or if you're a community member, the child who lives next door. So I think it's a very slippery slope when we're deciding what's controversial or what's actually helpful for our students in their emotional and social learning. And hopefully our kids are going to leave Merrick one day, come back and visit, but they're going to leave and they're going to go out into the world. And I think that we have to have them open and learning about things that they are going to experience and learn in the world, or they may be experiencing. As far as setting curriculum, that is not the job of the board. The board, as the other candidate said, the learning standards are set by the New York State Education Department. Then the director of curriculum, here Dr. Jill Karp, will work through potential sources for the curriculum and the instructional materials. She reviews those with teachers who are experts in each grade level and each subject area, and then the teachers decide on what would be appropriate for their students. I do trust those teachers. Of course, parents should be an active part, and I would encourage that. I will certainly be an active part in my child's learning, so if they have questions about the curriculum or concerns, the curriculum maps, those are all available to parents, and they should be accessed and discussed with teachers.
Next question is, what do you see as the major issues facing the Merrick School District? And was there one particular issue that motivated you to run for the school board? We'll start with Tara.
Okay. So I think the issue, and this is coming from my own experience, is the parent's voice. The parents aren't the enemies, and I know this all too well. So as a parent, as a community member whose emails were left unanswered, treated disrespectfully and mocked by the people who took the oath to represent me, I felt unheard. I was pushed aside, and I said no more. And that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm running. I want to be the trustee I wish I had. I value the voice of the community, and I've been an active community member for the 26 years that I've lived here in this town. I've made some phenomenal friends. I call them all my sisters and my brothers, and they're very valuable to me. If you value the voice of the community, I think that's something that needs to be part of our school district, and that's why I'm here. If you know me, you know I'm true to my words and my actions, and if we're meeting for the first time, then I hope you'll trust me. Every parent's voice should be heard and respected, and it can't continue anymore. Our district needs a clean lens. Our district needs fresh ideas, and it's pretty courageous to be the person to stand up here and be able to say that I was the one that it happened to, and I don't want it to happen to anyone else. I think there needs to be a new seat at the table, and I'd like to take that seat because I think the kids deserve it. Thank you.
Jessica?
So I know I mentioned at the beginning, I do love Merrick. I love the school district, and I appreciate the role of everybody on the school board. To piggyback sort of on what Tara said, I saw firsthand the frustration, I saw tears, I saw anger coming from parents, and I don't know if it was the therapist that kicked into me, but I had extreme empathy, and I felt the need to really step in and advocate. I know I mentioned in the past that silence is an answer, and silence is more powerful, and I would love to change that. I would love people to feel heard, even if I say, I have to get back to you, I don't have the answer. On the flip side, I do want to say I know the trustees have, in the last 2 years, have dealt with circumstances that none of us wanted to deal with. So I think even to help them, it would have been, I would love to change so we can show how communication works, who people should contact on the board, what they could expect in terms of a response, because again, I don't want to minimize the amount of stress and the work that the people on the board have, I'm sure, but I would like parents to feel heard, valued. I want them to know their concerns are real. In terms of that, I know I mentioned before, I would love to update information in the spirit of transparency. I would like more information on the website, contracts, again, even chains of communication, who to contact for what. I would love to formalize more programs. Again, not me, but I would like to see the district formalize more things for when we talk about equity for those who are struggling readers, struggling writers, and things like that. But again, when I talk about not being heard or lack of communication, I don't want to disparage people, but I think
Time's up.
streamlining. I'm sorry?
Time is up.
Oh.
Jennifer.
So there's 2 reasons I ran for the board. One is I watched my mother as a dedicated teacher for over 35 years, I think, and then served 3 terms on her school board, and I saw what it meant to her and the people that she represented, and I thought it was an amazing way that I could give back to this community that I hope to be part of for a very long time. Of course, the second reason, and I don't know which order they go in, is my son. He is a young student just starting in this community. I think, honestly, we have a great district and we have a great community. What I think the biggest challenge is coming back together. And I do believe there are more things that tie us together and more shared values than what separates us. And I thought that my skills in listening to people who don't agree on anything all the time and helping them resolve those differences would be put to best use by serving on the school board.
Gina.
So I think that the biggest issue facing a school board trustee right now is the continued effort to return to normalcy. So we've been doing that all year. I think we've been doing a really wonderful job with it. But what I would like to see and what I would really like to focus on going into next year, and this is something that's really important to me, is to monitor the students and to see how they're doing. How are they doing emotionally? How are they doing academically? They've all been affected because of the pandemic. So how can we focus in on that and zero in and find out how they're doing? I'm not sure exactly how that is because I'm not the professional here, but I know we've hired a lot of professional people who can do this. We have school psychologists, social workers. We have great transition from 6th grade into 7th grade. We have wonderful teaching staff. So I really, and one of my main reasons for wanting to continue my 15-year tenure is because the past 2 years have been very abnormal. We haven't set goals. Why didn't we set goals? Because we're up until 12 o'clock at night trying to figure out how to open the schools and keep them open. But we will set goals.
Thank you. And we're now going to have the last question. What are Merrick's district's greatest capital needs right now, and how would you address them? And that will start with Jessica.
The greatest I have to applaud Merrick again. I came in at a time when they hadn't done the major projects that they've done now, so I don't think they've done a lot of capital improvements. I'm impressed with the fact that every school building has central air conditioning. I'm impressed with the playgrounds that they put in, the additional wings. So if I were to think of the biggest capital improvement, that would be a difficult thing. It would be something I'd have to truthfully look on. But one of the most important things I would think, again, just comes back to communication. I know that sometimes things have to be changed. I know Chatterton parents are upset about the change of the summer rec program because of a construction project. So in terms of the biggest thing, although it's not a specific capital improvement, I would think just along the lines of what I've been saying all along is just communication as it relates to those I know that the district does a wonderful job, I have it here, sending out information about the budget, the capital projects, and things like that, but I think when there are issues along the way, it would be important to make sure we communicate that. Another thing I'd like to see is, I know in the past with some construction projects, that there was issues where there were no liquidated damages clauses and things like that, so I would want to make sure that we're protecting not only the district, but the taxpayers in terms of any capital projects that the district decides to undertake.
Jennifer.
So I am not aware of any major capital needs within the district. I think that they've done an excellent job in putting forth a budget that manages both their contractual obligations, the capital needs of the schools, and the other factors that come into play. Obviously, as a trustee, once you get on the board, I'm sure Gina will attest to this, it is different than sitting here as a new candidate. And so, of course, I would review any issues that were brought to our attention from parents or from other community members as to what capital needs may be.
Gina.
So I think that in Merrick, we do a wonderful job with improving our schools, starting back after Sandy Hook when we went and we did a major overhaul of our security system. We were state-of-the-art, one of the first districts to have 911 call-in. We spent a lot of money working on that. And then I think it was about 2016 with the residents voting yes for the bond. We have been doing major capital improvements, starting here at the school with parking lots, air conditionings, new casements in the classrooms, new bathrooms in the classrooms, you name it, we've been doing it. I think our schools are in excellent shape, and I think that as far as capital work goes, we're second to none. We really, really pay attention to our schools, and I thank the administrators and Jim O'Byrne for keeping everything on top with that, because and the Chatterton addition, they had reading room in the basement in Chatterton, and now they have a beautiful new wing. Merrick is doing great when it comes to taking care of its fields and its buildings. Thank you.
Tara.
I agree. I think that our schools are really beautiful. I mean, I walked into this room and I just went, wow, this is great, right? But anyway, I think our schools are really in good shape. I think the bond is, I go to the school board meetings and I hear about the bond and the troubles of getting the work done and so forth, so I know that that's an issue. I know that there's also a playground initiative that's part of what's going on in the future, so I guess just making the playgrounds accessible, coming from children that are differently able, to make sure that all children can go outside and play safely, that the grounds are level and that they have the appropriate playgrounds, I think is extremely important. So I know that there's some playground initiatives. And I think also just bringing up universal pre-K as hopefully, as it continues, we're going to start it next year with 115 spots, but hopefully it'll be able to manage all of the kindergartners that are coming here, that there may need to be some additions to the schools so that they'll be able to house the kindergarten kids and the pre-K kids in the actual schools where they're going to be going to kindergarten. So that may be something, maybe not the immediate year, but in the near future, that hopefully I'll be part of planning that and overseeing that budget.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. This has been very, very interesting, and I've seldom encountered 4 such able candidates. I'm very impressed. It explains why you have such a good school district. That will be it for tonight, and thank you very much. I did forget, thank you, Jane, that you each have 2-minute closing statements. So now that I've told you you're wonderful, tell us how wonderful you are again. We'll start with, let me see, with Gina.
Great. So I want to thank the League of Women Voters for moderating the evening, and the Birch PTA for hosting this event. Thank you to the community for asking very important questions. As a person who has been committed to serving our community for 20+ years, I believe parents' involvement is extremely important, and that our PTAs do an outstanding job enriching the school experience. This is where I got started. This is what was the catalyst for what I do today. As a trustee, no other reason. This is my only goal. It's very simple. My reputation and my commitment to the school stands on its own merit. I believe that schools are the cornerstone of a great community, and here in Merrick, our schools are excellent. Our children receive a well-rounded education, and they flourish. Many young families move to Merrick just because of the schools, as Jennifer did. During my 15 years as trustee, I have been an instrumental part of the team that ensures the success. In Merrick, not only do we meet the New York standard for curriculum, but we surpass it with our excellent teaching staff and so much more. It is important to me that our students feel that they are safe and a nurturing environment where they feel accepted and where they feel included. I know when my kids came home from school, and when they still come home from school, I ask this question: how was your day? I'm not asking about math, science, or spelling. I'm asking, were you okay? I want all kids to feel great when they come home from school. With that, I also want to say that I've been part of the audit committee for 6 years, meeting with our internal and external auditors, and we always receive an A+ rating. Most importantly, I feel that I'm a trustee. I'm very empathetic and available to listen to the concerns of parents and residents. I am knowledgeable, experienced, and a committed trustee. Merrick is a very special town and privileged to represent our community, and I'm a member of the Merrick School Board and the Belmore Merrick Central High School Board. I thank you all, and I encourage you all to vote on May 17th. Thank you. It's hard to get it all in 2 minutes, sorry.
Tara. Thank you. I just wanted to wish good luck to all the candidates, and it was very nice to be here tonight. I thank you everyone for coming and taking the time to get to know me. I believe we live in a wonderful community, but it's time for change. And that's not a bad thing. It can be a good thing. The parents need a voice, and I think I can be that voice for you. I think a parent perspective is very valuable, and I think that I can bring some new ideas, and I can bring some new face, and I want to be that new seat at the table. As a trustee, I'm going to always be responsive and respectful. It's just who I am. I rule by facts. It's just my nature of being Dr. C, that's what they call me. I rule by facts, not by emotions, so that we can help build this district and progress through continuous improvement, so that we can reach the mission statement of confident leaders for our children. We can all agree upon that. Good citizens, and be successful in preparation for secondary school. I think those are the missions of our school district, and I take them to heart, and I'll do my best to make sure that it happens for every single child. I would be honored to serve you, and hope that you trust me with your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica?
First, I want to thank the other candidates as well. It takes a tremendous amount of courage to throw all of our hats in the ring, especially in this climate. And I think at the end of the day, we're just 4 moms who really, not to minimize our role, but really just want what's best for all kids. So I look forward to, after the election, and I'm hoping that we could all shake hands and maybe enjoy a cup of coffee or tea together. I have 1 child, but I always say I really don't have just 1 child. I've had the honor of working with many, many children, or volunteering, or helping many children in the community, whether it be coaching as a leader of troops, or at various events at Chatterton. So, and not only that, in events throughout the district. I have experience professionally and personally, as I mentioned, supporting education. I am acting not only in the role of a parent, but also as a taxpayer. I am aware of all of the issues that are facing Merrick School District, and issues, again, it doesn't have a negative connotation, it just means things that need to be addressed. So I've participated in many committee meetings, like I mentioned, and as I said before, there needs to be some space for new ideas, and I want to continue to unite the community. I want all people to feel heard. I want all people to feel involved, whether you're working full-time or you're working in the home. And I know that I'm a strong communicator. I listen to people, I have empathy, and I think an investment in our schools is not only an investment in our children, but our community as well. And I pledge to you my continued dedication and integrity. So I ask that you vote for Dr. Jessica Mack and Dr. Casamano on May 17th. And I appreciate all of your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Thank you to my fellow candidates, the PTA, and the League of Women Voters for hosting this event tonight. Most importantly, thank you to all of you for taking time out, missing TV shows and Netflix and your kids and your families to come here and be part of this important process. When I was thinking about the last month and coming here tonight, as stressful as it can be at times, I kept coming back to the word hopeful. I leave here tonight with the same sentiment. I am hopeful that my answers tonight were informative and clear. I am hopeful that they will help you in your decision making. I am hopeful that we as a community continue to build upon the exceptional educational programs that brought me here, and I'm sure so many of you. I am hopeful that I can put my long-term professional skills and the community organizing skills that I have built upon while here in Merrick to the best use of all of you, and especially all of the kids in this community. I am hopeful that I can help build bridges, foster challenging but meaningful conversations, and I know that I will have an open door and listening ear for everyone in this community, never blocking out those who may challenge me or may have a different perspective. I am hopeful that we never lose sight of that anxious 7-year-old like me as a kid that I talked about earlier, or my 6-year-old, or the child with special needs, or the kid who is excelling, or the kid who needs specialized services. Because that's why I'm running, for all of the children. And I am hopeful that we can come together on Tuesday to move forward together, and I would be humbled to have your vote on May 17th.
Thank you very much. Now we can applaud.
Guess I'm not going far with this one. So thank you all for coming out this evening. Thank you to the candidates. This was really one of the best forums I've seen in a very long career. So thank you for your thoughtful answers. I ask that you all do one thing comes Tuesday, that you meet the challenge of one of the most fundamental rights and privileges in a democracy and come out and vote. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.